This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Business is the most popular subject for international students in the United States. At last count, 22% of foreign students at American colleges and universities were studying business and management. The Institute of International Education in New York says engineering was the second most popular field. Thomas Kosei is a professor of marketing and business at the University of Richmond in Virginia. He says international students who want to study business need to have good English skills. At the same time, native English speakers who work with foreign companies may need to learn some new communication skills themselves. This is because the world has more non-native speakers of English than native speakers. At the University of Richmond, teams of graduate students work with companies seeking to enter the American market. The students learn about writing market entry studies. The reports are written in English, but Professor Kosei tells his students to consider who will read them. He said his students have to write the report so that it can be understood by someone who is an English speaker but not a native English speaker. For example, he tells his students to avoid jargon and other specialized terms that people might not know in their own language. This can be good advice even when writing for other native speakers. But effective communication involves more than just words. Kay Westerfield is director of the International Business Communication Program at the University of Oregon. She says you must have the language skills as well as cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence means the need to consider local behaviors in everything from simple handshakes to speaking to large groups. Still, Kay Westerfield says the ability of foreign workers to speak English is becoming more important to companies looking to off-source operations to other countries. Also, she says English skills often provide a competitive edge for business students when they seek jobs. She said, as one business student in West Africa put it, English is a lifeline. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. We offer live English lessons Monday through Friday at the VOA Learning English page on Facebook. You can also read and listen to our programs and find activities for English learners at voaspecialenglish.com. And we have podcasts on iTunes.
This is the VOA Special English Education Report. 826 is the name of a nonprofit organization that works to help students become better writers by thinking creatively. 826 is also the address of the first center where this literary arts program began in 2002. Author Dave Edgars and educator Nineveh Caligari started the program in California at 826 Valencia Street in San Francisco. It now serves 30,000 students through writing and tutoring centers in 8 American cities. At the front of 826 Valencia is a pirate supply store. Think of the kind of place where Captain Jack Sparrow might shop. Lee Lehman is the executive director. She says the idea of entering through a pirate store is meant to get students not to think of the place as a school or tutoring center. During the day, teachers bring classes on field trips, and volunteers help with writing projects. After school, students come for help with creative writing and their schoolwork. The center is for public school students between 6 and 18 years old. 826 Valencia is located in a mostly Latino neighborhood. Ms. Lehman says many of the children are from poor immigrant families. Each 826 center has a different theme, from the pirate store in San Francisco to a store for spies in Chicago. The National Chief Executive, Gerald Richards, says budget cuts in public schools mean less money for arts education. And as that goes away, he says, so does the ability for students to use their imagination. I think there is much more of a focus on science, technology, engineering, and math. There's a lot of focus on testing, and a lot of the teaching that's going on in schools is focusing on the test and passing the test, rather than thinking about how do we get kids to think. Lee Lehman says 826 builds confidence. Students can publish and sell their work at places like the Pirate Supply Store and on the internet. In 2010, the programs across the country published 944 volumes of student writing. Ms. Lehman says students are proud when their writing gets published. One of the students in San Francisco, Sofia Marquez, says, I get to use my imagination. That's why I like writing. You can watch another video about the program in San Francisco at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find texts, MP3s, and activities to read, listen, and learn English. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
Did you know my father was 61 years old when I was born? Growing up as a child, I'm standing on the actual location where he worked. Anniston Scrap Material. Come with me, I'll show you a little bit more. Check it out. Here's the location. And I mean, it is the actual location where he worked as a kid growing up, at this place. And I remember everything about this building from the inside and the out, and even in the back, where he worked on cranes. Here's a funny for you. The cranes that he worked on reminded me of the dinosaurs on the cartoon show, The Flintstones. You remember, Fred and Barney worked there, you know? But anyway, here's my point. This place is a reminder to me that in life, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And that sometimes means that you may have to learn lessons not just from your own life, but even those of your parents. And what I learned from my father was this: motivation gets you going, but discipline keeps you growing. Growing simply means that he had a discipline where he came and showed up at this place every day, worked his heart out, worked his hardest, come home and do it all over again. And I learned from that. Now, another thing I learned from my father was this: I learned early what I wanted to do and what I did not want to do, and I did not want to work at a place like this. But that's besides the point. Here's what I want you to understand. What lessons have you learned from your own past failures, or even those moments in your life where you thought you lost something? You realize that life's greatest losses could actually be your greatest gain? So I want to encourage you again. Motivation gets you going, but discipline keeps you growing. Growing to a level where you can become a better you if you put the effort in it. This has been Steve Dennis sharing with you another wonderful motivational moment to encourage you to have your best life. If you want to make it happen, It can take place by simply putting some of these principles into practice and knowing for sure, as I remind you all over again, sometimes you win, but sometimes you learn. Thank you very much.
Kids are talking by the door. 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 Dogs are sitting by the door. Kids are talking by the door. Dogs are sitting by the door. Kids are talking by the door. Dogs are sitting by the door! Dogs are sitting by the door. Kids are talking by the door. Dogs are sitting by the door. Oh, dogs are sitting by the door. Dogs are sitting by the door. Kids are talking by the door.
Preguntaba a Nick cómo hace para anclar ese estar en el ahora, ese estar en el centro de tu ser, que es el centro del círculo de las percepciones. Me decías que además milagro significa corrección de percepción.
De percepción, sí. Estamos percibiendo al mundo a través del punto de vista del ego. Por eso es que vemos separación. El milagro es cuando eventualmente la mente empieza a percibir correctamente, donde ya en vez de percibir separación, experimentamos esa unidad. Que quizá a través del mundo físico no se experimenta porque el cuerpo es la barrera que hemos puesto que nos hace pretender que tú eres tú y yo soy yo. Ahora, si yo te dijese que yo estoy en el momento presente en todo momento y estoy en paz todo momento, sería un tremendo hipócrita. Porque eso no es tan fácil como parece. Es sencillo porque es nuestra naturaleza, pero una mente que ha sido traineada, como quien dice, espero que esa sea la palabra correcta, entrenada por tantos años a pensar de una forma, obviamente se tiene que poquito a poco virar boca abajo, o sea, enderezar poco a poco, y nosotros no somos quien lo enderezamos, es la parte de nosotros que la endereza. ¿Y cómo lo hacemos? En vez de yo tratar de mantener control de lo que está sucediendo, yo le digo a esa parte mía, Espíritu Santo, yo le llamo Espíritu Santo, pero el nombre es irrelevante.
Esencia.
Espíritu Santo, o Dios, o Cristo, o Ave María, o Madre Teresa, o Buda, o como quieras llamarle, yo lo único que quiero es la paz en todo momento. O sea, tenemos que de verdad, de corazón, elegir la paz en todo momento, que incluso, para hacerlo más sencillito, lección 185 dice: deseo la paz de Dios. Decir estas palabras no es nada, pero decirlas de corazón lo es todo. Si pudieras decirlas de corazón, aunque solo fuera por un instante, jamás volverías a sentir pesar alguno en ningún lugar o momento. Pero tienes que de verdad querer esa paz interna. Y
descubres si de verdad la quieres o no.
Sí,
me imagino en el curso de milagros.
Sí.
Te invito a que despidamos Luz Sin Fronteras agradeciéndote infinito, de verdad, sabiendo que estás aquí próximamente, 14 y 15, está con nosotros Nick Arandes en Expo Cósmica. Más información en www.luzsinfronteras.com, www.expocosmica.com, tu página en español, Nick.
Sí, www.uncursodemilagrosconnick.com.
Un curso de milagros con nick.com, que le comentaba que no lo encontraba, y que regalemos a las madres el día en su día, que es el día de mañana, este milagro que somos de estar juntos y de podernos compartir a través de Luz Sin Fronteras. Nick Arandes, muchas gracias.
Gracias a ti.
Vamos a despedir con esto que es Miracles de Nick Arandes.
Milagros.
With love, we can move underground. With a smile, we can make it look clean.
Sofía, ya no te muevas tanto.